We are gathered here today to celebrate the life of a wonderful film. A film yet to be experienced by far too many whilst being greatly adored by those lucky enough to have discovered it. Oh, those who have discovered it. How did you discover it? Most of you met The Living Wake because of Jim Gaffigan or Jesse Eisenberg, but all of you stayed for Mike O'Connell's K. Roth Banu in all of his flawed, eccentric wonder. It is okay to cry, but only happy tears. Do not mourn, for today is a day of celebration. Like a bottle of the finest stubborn grouse bourbon, The Living Wake has not expired but has been waiting for you, getting tastier with the years. Pop the cap, drink it in, become intoxicated by its potent contents, for today we celebrate the legacy of The Living Wake. 'Twas a wise soul who once proclaimed via a title card insert, a man is only as good as his living wake, and Mike O'Connell's Living Wake is so good. Let's pray. Dear Apollo, god of music, arts, and poetry, son of Zeus, let's get on with this fucking thing. What the is up, internets? Am I so excited for today's show? That is a rhetorical question. Absolutely, I'm excited for today's show. Before we get into what we are doing on today's show, just want to remind you, first of all, thank you very much for watching. Second of all, if you are watching and haven't subscribed, why the not? Please subscribe now. Hit the bell. Get notifications when we post new episodes. We post a new episode covering a new film every Thursday. We post highlights to that episode every following Tuesday. We try to include interviews, lots of facts, good discussion, and
that's the opening.
Thank you.
No, thank you. This week coming up, guys, we have something you will not believe. We are discussing a well not known soul film called The Living
Wake.
Yeah, so for all my woke people out there, this film is just for you. And what I mean by just for you, not for you at all. This comes from a genre that is genre-less. I would like to call it Broadway meets stage play meets Hollywood meets independent.
Yes, that is a good combination. For most of you who don't know what The Living Wake is, first of all, it is my favorite film of all time. I said that in the last episode. I stand by it on this episode. So it was really hard for me to contain myself on this episode. This was your first time seeing it this weekend. Mm-hmm. And we will, of course, get to, I can't wait to get into that. But just to give, because I know most people haven't seen the movie, one, go check it out. It's on Amazon. Mm-hmm. Two, since you're here, this is what it is. It's a whimsically witty dark comedy seemingly existing in its own universe. It follows the journey of K. Roth Banu, a complicated man, after he has contracted a disease that is almost as grave in its vagueness as it is vague in its graveness. This is the last day of his life before he passes at 7:33 p.m. K. Roth sets out with his best and only friend, /man/chauffeur/biographer Mills, played by Jesse Eisenberg, with less than 12 hours to live, to find the meaning of life while preparing for his wake service and eventual death later that evening. The day is filled with interesting interactions with different eccentric characters from around the town, often resulting in altercations or situations that are as poetic as they are hilarious. From an ongoing confrontation with his neighbor and rival Reginald, to gambling for alcohol with a liquorsmith, and disturbing a funeral director with requests for a Viking ceremony, a ghost sacrifice, nanny love, a prostitute, a failed attempt to distribute his literature to a public library, a failed attempt to reconcile with his mother and his brother, and a run-in with a swindling clockmaker where he ends up literally trying to buy time. After an absurd day that feels like the norm for K. Roth, it is time for his living wake, where all of the characters that we met are in attendance, providing a simple yet epic closing to a beautiful parable-like tale. That is my elevator pitch for this film. Check it out.
You had me at Viking funeral. That's where you had me. It's a badass film. Any film with a Viking funeral has to be a badass film. So that's where you had me at.
So, yeah, that was like the first thing you said to me, is that you wanted a Viking funeral.
And that's how you knew that I had actually seen and watched the film. And I'll say this, like as we discussed with Mr. O'Connell earlier, is that this is something that had I seen the previews for, had I been told that was just the greatest thing ever, and I saw it, I would have been completely let down because...
I'm sorry, because you said Mike O'Connell earlier. That's earlier for us. We're still in Tenet time. It'll be later for you guys. We do have Mike O'Connell on this episode, writer and lead actor of Play K. Roth Banu in The Living Wake.
Have you interviewed my guest yet?
Huh?
All right. One of the first things, Durden, that really caught my attention in the film is I'm paying attention because I'm doing my homework for this. And of course, the first thing that caught my attention was pipeline in motion pictures, pimp.
Yeah.
Like that to me, that was funny, and hopefully we can get a chance to discuss that later with Mr. O'Connell and see what he has to say about that. But that was one of the things that really caught my eyes, and one of the bigger things that caught my eyes. You know how from week 1 to week 2, week 1 we did Black Panther, and then the second week we did Tenet, and you know how there was a segue between those. It was the composer. Now, of course, clearly the composer didn't work on this one, but one of the things that I found that was a segue is that in Tenet, what we're talking about is time. And then when that scene where Canute goes into that, he's obsessed with time the whole film. He's talking about, when his death's going to be, it pronounces his death at the beginning and with his time. And so he goes into that clock shop, and I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm right back in Tenet. Like, these movies are following themselves for a reason. Like, they all are joined at the hip in some type of way.
I have another connection for you for Black Panther to The Living Wake. If you look really closely in the funeral scene or the wake scene at the end, I think if you're looking at the screen, so it'd be like 4 or 5 rows back, 5 seats over, like in the back right corner-ish, young Michael B. Jordan. Fact check me on that. Watch the movie and tell me if I'm wrong. Leave it in the comments.
So is it really him?
You'll have to see, audience. You'll have to see for yourself. Go watch it on Amazon Prime. And look for Michael B. Jordan in the final. You have to watch the whole thing because he's in the final scene. So,
I see what you did there.
do you?
I think so.
I hope they do too.
Okay, all right. There we go. All right.
But yeah, before we wrap the elevator pitch, I just want to say this movie, it will not be for everybody. Some of you will watch it and hate it. Some of you will watch it and pick up its torch and run with it. It's one of those movies. It's polarizing. That's what great movies are or should be. But if you do find yourself into it, you will be pleasantly surprised. It exists in a universe all of its own, and anything is possible, and it's just like a full-length feature of proverbs that are also hilarious.
An enjoyable escape from reality.
Yeah. While still dealing with really, like, it manages to deal with really heavy issues like death, existentialism, all these things but
all in like 12 hours because he doesn't even have a full day. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay, let's move on to.
And that's the pitch.
We're about to talk. We're about to talk during this movie.
Whoop, whoop.
All right. So please, you begin because I've been dying to hear what you have to say.
Okay. First and foremost, the very first thing that I didn't even realize first off, O'Connell looks like O'Connell, and when we interview him later, looks nothing like Canute because his hair is let down. But the first thing I saw, I almost thought it was plagiarism until I realized one movie came out first. Clearly, The Wait came out before The Django Unchained. But now I clearly know where they got the idea and how to dress Leonardo DiCaprio as Calvin Candy. It had to come from this film. It's somebody from The Django Unchained, the set dresser, had to see O'Connell as Canute. Do his hair. Yeah. His mannerisms, I'm like, that's f***ing Candy. It's Candyland. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying that Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the fans out there of The Living Wake?
Either Leonardo DiCaprio or the person that dressed him. I'm fact check that. Yes, I'm saying
Leonardo DiCaprio picks his own clothes. He makes his own decisions on the set.
Hey, that's the cap.
Nobody tells.
And I'm not talking about America. That's America's ass.
Yeah, nobody tells Arnie what to do.
There you go. So that's one of the first things I noticed. But also about the character, and I'm going to speak with O'Connell about this later. Is that his character? And forgive me for forgetting the guy's name. Our guy from Clue, the head guy from Clue that we always talk about.
About Tim Curry.
Tim Curry.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching.
Angela's gonna hate you.
Well, she's not going to hate me because we got Tim Curry into an episode. She's going to love me. Pulp Fiction, little love song. Anyway, but no, but we had, I felt like Tim Curry, Barney Stinson, and McFarlane, who does Ted, the character Ted. Like I felt like all and my guy from Modern Family. The gay uncle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I'm feeling like all those characters were meshed in one, and I enjoyed all of them. It's like the character says what's on his mind, and he undoubtedly believes it. And to me, I'm a very confident person, and so for me to dive into that character, all I knew is I saw someone who firmly believed. But we'll get back to more talking points. I'm just telling you what I thought, and so please, I know you have a multitude, algorithms, numeric codes, breakdowns.
Yeah. Quite a little bit. Yeah.
Beautiful Mind is coming up. Here we go in 3, 2.
Now, I'm going to try to condense this down. I'm very attracted to the absurdity of this movie. Like you said, it's a refreshing break from reality. It has just enough recognizable emotions, like what we come to know from reality. It has just enough of that sprinkled into this weird universe it's created, that it stays just grounded enough for it to hit home on certain subjects. The line that the funeral director, rest in peace, not coincidentally, it's been a little while since the movie was made, and he was an older gentleman at the time, but rest in peace anyhow. The funeral director has passed away since then.
Ironic.
The line that he says sums up pretty much what I love so much about this movie. He says, "Death is a serious business and will be treated as such until it stops happening." And that right there, death is a serious business and will be treated as such. This movie does the exact opposite of that. And few movies dare to approach subjects like death and, really, just death and all of the things that come with that. Few movies dare to approach that from a comedic angle, and even fewer movies are able to succeed in approaching it from a comedic angle. I think this one pulls off that balance beautifully. So I do have a. Do you have any additional thoughts before I dive into a theory that I have about the movie?
Yes. One thing I did want to bring up to you was I saw a three movies tied into this for me, and I don't think anybody else will put these three together. It was Talladega Nights, it was The Truman Show, in this film. And one of the theories that I had, or not even theories, but one of the things that kind of combined these films wore me, like they all either went on what the words of their dad, like not necessarily in The Truman Show, because he just saw his dad get killed in the water allegedly or whatnot. But there, like I will say, as far as The Truman Show reference was, the dad from The Truman Show and then the dad from The Living Wait, Jim Gaffigan, they had a lot of character. Even how they were dressed was the same to me. But one of the main things from Talladega Nights to this, I don't think anyone's made this reference. Like Ricky Bobby went off his dad saying you're either first or you're last, and his dad was like, man, I was high as when I said that. Like, man, no, of course you get a second or third. He's bringing that up. But with Canoe, he didn't get his dad's last word. So whether you got him or not,
Banu.
Why do I keep saying Banu?
Because canoe is a normaler word.
That's the first time I've said that today. But okay, 3, 2, 1. And with Banu's father, he didn't get it. But not only worse than not getting, his dad was like, hey, there's this one powerful short little monologue thing. And then he gets apparently destroyed by beavers. I'm sorry, spoiler alert, which was amazing. You know what I'm saying? He's like, and then I found out he dropped a toy panda. I thought he had bought his kid a real koala bear or whatever it was. I thought it was really a koala, and he's like, I dropped it, and so I jumped the gate. Like, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, that was I see the resemblance between his dad, and it's that problem that we all, or the mistake that we all make with our parents is we eventually, hopefully all get to a certain age where we realize, we have that realization, that aha moment where, my parent is not this all-knowing figurehead. They're human just like me, still figuring out. And you shouldn't really put too much weight on any words that they say.
I like to put it as they're not superheroes, they're action figures. And what I mean by that is like, they're on the front line. They're the ones with the kung fu grip. They're not flying but as you grow up, you get to see it. And so to me, Like I'm not. I'll discuss it later. But with Banu, I really think that everything that happened to him in his childhood, it fueled him, and like and we'll talk about it later. But his dad kind of speaks to that. But go ahead. Any theories like from you seeing this back then, because we know it was released. It was made in 2007, or released in 2010. So you fell upon it. So what are your theories?
So I will try to keep this theory as short and sweet as possible. I'm going to sum it up in a brief but powerful monologue.
Okay.
All right, so the whole experience feels more like a well-crafted parable than a traditional narrative. What are some clues that tell me I'm watching something that doesn't take place in reality as we know it? We know that diseases are not as punctual as the grave and vague disease that K. Roth has, and it's not possible for someone to be given the exact time of their death in advance unless, of course, that time was given to them by somebody that was about to murder them. Like, hey, you're about to die in 3 minutes.
Minority Report.
Yeah. We also know that the main characters in general are just kind of off. It's almost like they're performing on a stage in one of K. Roth Banu's productions. So that was another clue. The biggest one for me was when they get to the clock shop. That really sold the idea for me that this was a parable of metaphors, how it explores the idea that time is an illusion, but we still try to buy ourselves more of it. How Mills' watch keeps breaking throughout the story, almost as if it's a representation of him wanting more time with K. Roth as his only friend. The fact that Mills' watch starts working again on his way to do the Viking ceremony, like pretty much after he's accepted the fact that K. Roth is gone, that's when you hear his watch start ticking again. So that felt very metaphoric. So if this is a parable, the purpose of a parable is to impart a message. So what is the message of the parable that is the living wake? I think it's a message about self-realization and the death of self. I think this becomes apparent in the final act, especially when K. Roth speaks to his father and finally experiences unbridled self-awareness, followed by acceptance for who he truly is. He spends the whole day, the entirety of the film, trying to gain acceptance in some form from every character he encounters, but in the end, he finds that he just needed to accept himself to find true contentment. Thoughts?
I can tell that, see, it's one thing for people to say, hey, this is my favorite film. Like, don't tell me it's your favorite film. Tell me, I need introspective. I need to know why it's your favorite film. And hearing you say that, you brought up several integral points that I couldn't even encompass or even think about, because of the fact that you are correct with Mills being able to, like you say, his clock breaking, and then it happening again, or even when Banu is in the time clock, when he's in the basically the timekeeper shop or whatnot. All the clocks are different times, and he says, he's like, which one's right? He definitely asked him that. So now he's trying to figure something, like maybe it's going on in his head. But furthermore, the guy says, well, if you're not, well, he's like, just tell me what time it is. He's like, well, if you're not going to buy a watch, I can sell you time. So even hearing him say that, like, sell, like, even funny part about that, that's a line from close line from that Robert Downey Jr.'s father, or Iron Man's father, in Endgame says, no amount of money ever bought a second of time. So even just hearing stuff like that, like time is a parable, and they were in a different reality. So to me, it speaks to your point. And again, it shows it almost makes me think. I mean, that's not where I went with it, but it really makes me think that all of this really could have went on in his head. The approval of his parents, trying to do all these things. And one of the things that and we'll talk about it later with O'Connell or Banu, whichever eccentric character he's being today. But one of the things that really got me about this film, and why I said, you know what, it's a staple for me. It's almost a teaching film. This is a film I would, if I was basically a professor at Juilliard or somewhere, or film school, what I would do is I would show this film, because to me, and like I said, this is a film, like if I was a professor at Juilliard, at Florida State Film School, or wherever, the reason why I would show this is because when I look at this from Banu's perspective, and when you're trying to make a film, I've lived that role. I've lived the role of being a director. I've lived the role of being a photographer, an actor, a voice actor, a writer, an extra, going to pick up donuts, craft services. I've done all of those roles. And to me, it was always not about being accepted. It was about, what more do I have to do to show how good I am as being an actress, an artist, as a thespian? So to me, when I'm not going to reveal the punchline at the end of the film, or should I say what happens at the end of the film, but with that being said, to hear them wrap that up and say, but you were never scared, and that resonated with me so fucking much. It was just like, no, I was never scared. Almost, oh, now this finna fuck everybody up. What was Michael J. Fox's character in Back to the Future? What he said, I'm scared of rejection. Remember he said it like that. I was never scared of being approved. I just didn't want people not to like my shit, so I worked so hard at it. But I was never scared. That's the one thing I never thought. Like, oh, I just it's some Matrix shit. Like I didn't go to school to be a photographer, but I've done great photography. You didn't go to school to be a director. You've been a great director, a great writer. So to me, we were never scared of what people thought. We just knew that if we tried and gave it that time. So to me, that's why this film really resonates with me.
That's a good point. It is a perfect movie to show to film schools or film students or people that are aspiring to be filmmakers, because not only do you get a very introductory level to just the basic fundamentals of making a good, solid film, you also get the content of it is preparing you for the trials and tribulations that you'll experience internally trying to be an artist in an artistic world.
That's 100% correct. Like, you're gonna get, not everybody's gonna love your shit, and that's what you have to realize. So to me, that's one of the things there. One of the other things I want to bring up. Are we still in talking points, or where we're at?
Yeah, I've got but before we move on to the next topic, since this is a wake service, I wanted to share a few memories that I enjoyed from the film.
Yes, I'll come right along with you. Take me down the road and I'll follow.
All right, so the first memory that I really loved having with the Living Wake during my time with it was the fact that his disease is vague and grave, that it's almost as grave in its vagueness as it is vague in its graveness. Did I that up?
No, it's grave in its graveness, and that's greatness.
But I love that that's the main plot driver. Something so absurd, something so unrealistic, and something that they make absolutely no attempt to apologize for or explain. It's just, this is what it is. This is the world that we're putting you in. Accept it. Take the ride with us. If you don't accept this from this point on, you're going to have a really hard time with everything else we throw at you.
They even stick it in the turn when he's with his brother and his mom, and his brother's like, "You're not dying." Yeah. As if he know, like, oh, he pulls this shit every week. Like, so in the end, no attempt to explain it.
Yes, like right to the very end, you're wondering, is this another one of his schemes? Is he really going to die? Mm-hmm. But then even after the fact, even after it happens, you're still like,
allegedly, spoiler alert,
you're still in that position of wondering, did any of this really happen?
Right.
Is it all a scheme inside his head that took place before we started watching? Mm-hmm. I also like the relationship between Benu and Mills. It's Mills is the perfect wingman. His devotion to K. Roth is as confusing as it is admirable. I go back and forth wondering if he is just going along with Benu's schemes because he's too passive to go his own way, or if he really enjoys Benu and their adventures. But
or is some Fight Club going on? I'm the guy. You like I want to talk like I want to.
Yeah, his own little basilicus, if you will. I think. And Jesse Eisenberg played it perfectly because there was no like trying to outshine the lead or anything like that. He was just like his character. He was the perfect Jesse Eisenberg was kind of the perfect wingman supporting character to Mike O'Connell in this. But I do think it's sweet that K. Roth seems to generally shun relationships, but he has this bond with Mills and even admits to loving him. And the only other human being that he loves is Martha, the nanny that he has a questionable relationship with. And Mills and Benu, it's not an average friendship. It's this like partnership where they're codependent on each other. He even refers to Mills as his man, his chauffeur, his biographer. But whatever he is, their chemistry is such an interesting dynamic of the film that really adds to how enjoyable every scene is.
Jarvis, the AI for Iron Man, Al Borland, the friend of Tim the Two-Man Taylor, Doctor Strange's cloak, and Smithers to Mr. Burns. There has never been a more loyal subject, even Reef from Game of Thrones. There's never been a more loyal subject to anyone Like that's the one. That's why this movie has to be chronicled in a time capsule. Like more what to quote Iron Man from Avengers Endgame. What is he? What no Infinity War. What is this your? No, that was Doctor Strange. What is he? Your liege? Like is your man boy or something like?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Doesn't matter. My Marvel fans do. That's another 10 subscribers right there. Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on. The monologue slash theory that you brought up earlier makes more sense to me because the more and more I talk to you about it, I see this. It's a different version of A Beautiful Mind. Like, I mean, everything is happening inside Benu's head. Now, the more I think about it, I don't know if they meant for it to play out that way, but the beautiful part about it, as we will discuss with Mr. O'Connell later, is that he had this in his head for quite so long. So it's like it's out of your head and you're making a movie about your head. And like we told you, this is not a standard film. You will learn about Broadway, stage play, and filmmaking and independent filmmaking all in one film.
Yeah. The other thing I really like about Living Wake, another fond memory that I have of my time with it, is a complicated protagonist. I love a movie or a show that has they give you someone to root for who is flawed and complicated, like Dr. House is a perfect example that I could think of.
Look like him. I never thought about that.
Oh man,
can we do a side by side? I'm sorry. Can we? There we go.
So yeah, they give you a lead that's not just the good guy. You get a sense that Kay Roth wants to be good and seems to have a good heart. But as the story unfolds, you could gather that he's a disloyal, scheming alcoholic with a potential history of mental illness. So you have this like lead.
Cut off the funding.
Yeah. So you have a lead that you don't really, you don't know if you can fully trust them, but you also really want to. So that makes the movie very interesting to me.
So, one thing that I came across here, and I'm gonna pull this up. One of the things that really I know we're still at talking points about the film, but one of the things that I want to bring up here is there were a lot of, like, put it this way. You can tell that to me O'Connell was for my enjoyable purpose is meant for, and this is just me speaking here, is meant more for Broadway or stage play because his delivery. This movie, the dialogue in this film is up there with. I'm talking about I know we normally do top 3 quotes. There should have been top 300 quotes. There's no way. You have to at least watch this movie 7 to 10 times. And it's not like that difficult to understand. But I'm as far as to catch all the beautiful this is one time where it's not visually. It's written so well that it's almost like, damn, if I'd have just listened to this, my mind would have took me where they were. Mm-hmm. It's almost, and I'm not saying it's to be bad, but it's almost a disservice to me to visually see it now because though the words brought a story alive. It reminded me of like when you're watching it's a Christmas Story, and he was listening to that show to get the secret decoder ring and all. Yeah. Like you had to use it brought me back to a time to where you actually had to use your mind. You can't just rely on your visual to tell the story.
Yeah, he says it perfectly, and when we talk to him later, that it's like a storybook universe, which that's it. Yeah, it felt like everybody. I don't know where I was going to end that, so I'm just going to move on. I'm beside myself today because I think about who your favorite writer, actor is in the world. Do you have somebody in your head?
I can't see my mirror.
Imagine you just talked to them for almost an hour and a half about your favorite movie in the world. So forgive me. I'm not on drugs. I'm just on O'Connell. The last thing that I
sounds like you're on a little Robert K. Benu.
The musical numbers, they were such a pleasant surprise, specifically because they come out of nowhere in like towards the end of the second act and the third act. All of a sudden it becomes a musical, and like, how could the movie get any stranger? Let's make it a musical out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. I love that, but let's not harp on that because you're trying to steal some of my thunder. That's coming back later.
I will just say one note that I had about one Dress for Death at the end was an awesome song. It was a fantastic moment, and if I heard that song on the radio and you told me this is Neil Diamond's Dress for Death, I would be like, man, that's Neil Diamond sounding good these days. It played like a Neil Diamond song for me.
Neil Diamond is so awesome. I know it's random, right?
We're coming to America.
Oh, yes. Yes. So one of my last points, as far as talking points is that as far as they did a very good job of touching when you do a film, people like you got to talk about what's near and dear to your heart. And so for me, with this film, they touched on a lot of things and they did it in a lighthearted way. And I'm only echoing what you said earlier. I'm just diving a little deeper into it. Is that they were able to discuss people who had gambling problems, drinking problems, mental illness, prostitution issues, or scared of death, or people who jump on WebMD. He reminded me of someone who jumped on WebMD one night, and it said if you are coughing and have red skin, you're dying in 19 days. So now all of a sudden you're telling everybody, hey man, it's been a hell of a ride. We're finna go and get out of here. Like, so they address so many things without having you say that's so PC or having somebody after them, this group, that group. I'm not even gonna name. If I name a group, then I'm gonna get attacked about the anti-groupers who don't name groups. But point being is like they did a good job with no one being offended. I've only seen certain shows, like we've talked about the show Atlanta, how they do a good job of discussing stuff without necessarily offending people. And honestly, I miss the time where I feel like comedians should be the only artists who get to talk about any and everything, because sometimes laughing about stuff, no matter how painful, makes it just a little bit easier. Yeah. So with me, this is a comedian who is a writer, that he basically brought who he was. When we discuss this with him later, he's a musician, he's a playwright, he's worked on with King, and he's not a name dropper. He's worked with these people. He said, I've worked with these people, I have these relationships, and it's still hard. All that, what do you want to be when you grow up? That. What are you going to work towards to be when you grow up? Because if you're not working towards it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. All right, guys, that concludes talking during the movie. It's really hard to find stuff about this movie online, so we have a small big Fikes.
I mean, no, it's not. They can just subscribe here and find everything they need to know about it online.
Everything you need to know will be right here by the end of this episode.
Yes, we promise that.
So let's get into a small big Fikes.
These are the big Fikes.
All right, here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We have 9 facts for you today. Number 9. Rules are rules. Did you recognize the librarian? If you have seen Hulu's Handmaid's Tale, you may have felt a chill up your spine during the library scene in The Living Wake. That's Ann Dowd, or as you may know her, Aunt Lydia. Aunt Lydia and the librarian have very similar principles when it comes to the rules. The librarian boldly states into the face of Kay Roth, I'm sorry, sir, the rules are rules.
Quick segue on that. Funny part, Jesse Eisenberg played in this, and also he played in Zombieland, which came out years later, and they spend the entire movie talking about the rules that he must obey. Boom, that's what we do. Rules, brother. Big Fikes.
Number 8. Location. The luscious landscapes of The Living Wake were captured in the film's primary location for the production in... You want to try to say that city?
Yes, I do. Kimberport. Well, hold on. We had. Sorry, guys, we had technical issues, but you heard it, and then it's in Maine. So
yes,
yeah. We'll fix it in post.
Kimberport.
Yes.
Kennebunkport. Number 7. Budget. The estimated budget for The Living Wake was $500,000. Compare that to Avatar, which cost a whopping $425 million. So it just goes to show, you can make a great film with what Hollywood would consider a modest budget.
Like I'm going to kill someone this Friday.
Mm-hmm. Number 6. In Memoriam. Matthew Coles, who plays Mossman, the funeral director, passed away in 2014. Soap opera fans may recognize him from his role on All My Children, which also starred Jill Larson, who plays Kay Roth's mother in The Living Wake.
And does a masterful part of it, I may add. I would not like to be her child.
Yeah, she does a good job playing a
David. Female dog. Somebody put Lassie up on the screen. What's that? What's he again?
No, I think Lassie was a
Okay, I'm with it.
Award worthy. Number 5. The Living Wake picked up the Comedic Vision Award at Austin Film Festival, the Audience Award at Woodstock Film Festival, and was the official selections for AFI Los Angeles, Marfa Film Festival, Gen Art Chicago Film Festival, and Off Camera Film Festival. It was awarded the Best Picture Film Award at the Big Apple Film Festival, and at the Vail Film Festival, Jesse Eisenberg won the Rising Star Award for his portrayal of Mills, K. Roth's loyal man, chauffeur, and biographer.
Very good, and it just goes to show our filmmakers out there, you can win awards, get all those wreaths, because we got those wreaths before, but again, it's all about what you know, who you know, and when you know them. When time, it's no such thing as luck. When time meets opportunity, that's when success happens.
Mm-hmm. Number 4, everyone's a critic. Critics and audience members are at odds when it comes to the reception of The Living Wake, with critics giving it an average score of 47%, while audiences generally enjoy the film, giving it a score of 71%, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
That comes from most critics are universal critics. They're not just one genre of film, and most audiences who are actually going to take time to respond are actually from that genre. So that's why there's a higher audience versus a higher critic, because critics are watching all movies. If I can not like something, but if I take the time to respond, then that means I'm really into it. So that's where it came from.
Number 3, Poetry in Motion. The film deals with heavy subjects, abuse of parents, substance abuse, death, and an overall existentialist tone. But it handles these subjects with care and grace, set against a surreal stage theater-esque universe of literary wit and whimsy. It approaches grave subjects not unlike a parable or a poem.
Literary, literal, Laterian, longitude, latitude, those are 5 L rows in a row, and he couldn't get one. That's what I'm here for.
Literary and.
The librarian.
Number 2, Quadruple Threat. Not only does Michael Connell bring the character of K. Roth Benu to life on the screen, he also penned the words that came out of his mouth, co-writing The Living Wake with frequent collaborator Peter Klein, and produced the film, and as well as wrote and performed a few catchy musical numbers that spontaneously break out in the third act.
I like to call that the Tim Curry effect. We talked about him earlier. My thing is that we said there was only one or two ways Tim Curry was able to do that. He was either that damn good or whatever he was taking was that damn good. So I would like to think that happened.
A little bit of both, probably.
Yeah, 50-50. Little half and half, little Arnold Palmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number 1 big Fike is Home Turf. The Bunnelligan, Maine, where the production took place, is where director Sol Tryon grew up. He said that much of the imagery had been burned into his mind for quite a while.
With him, like you say, that's even with speaking of him, that's his directorial debut. And like you say, when you've done all these things, and like at a certain point, like I liken it to me or you, when you, like I say, been from craft services all the way up to first AD, and you've done everything in between. Nobody can't tell you what to do as a director. You may not be as great as everybody at their job, but you, as they say, a jack of all trades. And I think that's what directors are, just basically great jacks of all trades.
Yeah, and it also, when you're working on a movie with a small budget, you have to, use every advantage that you can, including home turf advantage, where you know people, businesses, you could stay places, get permission to shoot at places that you might be able to save money or even maybe get it at no cost if you have a history there.
I mean, how many productions have you shot at that I Am Media lot you're always telling me about?
Yeah, Jacksonville is a wonderful place because it calls home to I Am Media, and I think you charge like $750 an hour to shoot here.
I'm retired. See you soon, Hollywood.
That concludes Big Fikes. Let's move on to 7 Minutes in Heaven. What is our favorite scenes?
Somebody's finna get sleazy. So kids, quick question. Why spend 6 minutes in hell when you can spend 7 minutes in dirt and take us there?
Every scene in this movie is great. Quite literally every scene from the beginning and the end. They play out. What do you disagree? You know what? This is my part, so you can disagree quietly, and then every scene plays out like its own little like SNL skit or short film. Each have their own little conclusion, but they all contribute to the bigger story. I love every scene. I have a few honorable mentions before I get into my top 3, or I'll start off with my number 3, so you can go into your number 3. Back and forth. But let me get the honorable mentions out. So I give honorable mentions to the wake service at the end because it's like a mini stage production in itself, and of course you get the line where his friends from the bar they believe his performance so much when he falls down that he's like, no, no, Dawn was falling. Dawn fell. She used my body. Like, that part, that just embodied that, like, somebody taking their performance so seriously that
Those might have been the only two real people there. Those two guys from the bar.
But he becomes Dawn, or allows Dawn to become him.
Right.
That was a great scene. Another honorable mention, the picnic scene with Martha, and the another honorable mention to the attack on the road with Reginald, where they're throwing the smoke, rusty nails, the ham steaks. But here are my top scenes. I'll give you my number 3 first. The goat stealing scene with the farmer. I'm an eccentric. I keep roast beef in my pocket, and that's not a duck among those chickens. I like to laugh at it. You try. And Jesse, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top of the pie is Jesse Eisenberg's laughter at the goat, or at the duck.
He couldn't even do it that fluid. He was like,
yeah.
Okay, all right. I agree. I won't take that from you. My number 3 would be there is a scene when he's at the graveyard at the end, and there's a not a monologue, but then he goes into a song, and the first lines of the song is, "I've never had a Swiss whore," and for some reason I was just like, he's in a cemetery, he's about to die, and the first lines he can come out of is, "I've never had a Swiss whore," and I can't tell you what the they talked about in the rest of that song, but all I know is he's never had a Swiss whore, and to me that is movie cinema. That's gold, Jerry, gold. Thanks, Banya.
Have you ever had a Swiss whore?
I've had a Swiss Miss. I've had those chocolates. Can I get you to sign a non-disclosure? If you ask me that, if you sign a non-disclosure, I answer the question.
I've had a Swiss roll cake, and no, wait.
What does that mean?
It's not innuendo for anything.
It sounds like it is innuendo.
It's chocolate wrapped around white cream.
That's what she said.
I'm still not making innuendos.
Zebra cake, what the f*** you doing? All right, on to your number 2.
My number 2 is the library scene. That scene is as heartbreaking as it is hilarious, because that pretty much sums up the problem in the whole movie that he's facing, that wanting to feel immortal, wanting to feel like the works that he's done are worth something, that they're appreciated. And the way that he so quickly goes to compromising from, my books are going to be in the public library for anybody to read, to accepting that bitter fact that, like, the highs and lows of an artist, of, oh, they want me, they love me, they hate me, I'm the worst, I'm going to die, no one's going to know who I am. Like, that he went through that range of emotions in, like, one scene, and it eventually ends up, no one's going to see my work, but then compromising, where Mills, being the perfect wingman that he is, decides, I'll be your audience, I'll tell your stories to my children. And then, he's got the blanket, he's sitting down, he's listening to the story, and that line is so beautiful where he says, "Better for one than for none." Like, how many premieres are we emotionally preparing ourselves for beforehand? Like, I just it was, I would love 350 people, but it would be great if, just showing it to one person. And really, the more is truly the merrier, but the things we tell ourselves so that we can boldly go into the next project are absolutely amazing. And that scene, that library scene, summed all that up so eloquently.
One thing I'll say to what you were saying, I mean, just to add to your point, but you have to look at it this way. One thing I think we never thought about, remember as kids, or even just growing up, we were conditioned to we went to theaters that were filled. We watched people give applauses. We heard of these great directors, and of course we aspired to be great actors and great directors just like them. But one thing we didn't think about was, again, they had budget, they had marketing, they had this, these people didn't just show up because they just heard of this film. Mm-hmm. They were conditioned to know this film. And even till now, when we reach out to people about film, it's like, we still can only get so many unless they've been conditioned to be told that it's good. So I think it's just something that as filmmakers you have to be prepared for, and like they say, just know that there's a way to get over the hump, but you still have to work at your craft. I will say that. Yeah,
unless you have found a way to tap into the zeitgeist somehow, it's going to be an uphill battle always.
Are you talking about?
Like how many big actors and big filmmakers could you name, and compare that to how many people are acting and making films? And that's us who love film.
Right.
There's only a select. I mean, just like he says in the library scene, you haven't made a damn decision in your life if you've been given the options by somebody else. And that is the perfect representation of, I mean, really not just with the struggle for creators, but the struggle for anybody living in a free world.
Choose between this. Here's the vending machine. You have strychnine and Ritalin. Take one. All right. So with that being said,
Yeah.
there. So I'm gonna go. All right. So
Or as always, Sonny says, "Well, one politician A that's ramming me in the ass or blasting me in the ass, or one politician B that's blasting me in the ass."
if you
Either way, you're getting ass blasted.
at least cut on the lights if you're gonna ass blast somebody. That's all. That's what I always say. My second scene here was my second favorite scene was that, and this was this is the one we were talking about earlier. Is that it almost was my first scene, but I just could not let the other scene go because it was one of the scenes that made me literally bust out laughing. I think I shed a tear. And that's going to be my number one. But for my number two, it is the fact that he literally marches to his death.
Oh,
That to me, bro, it was just like, damn, I didn't think about
boldly.
it. Boldly marches to, it's like, and it's like he take like his dad when like it comes full circle. It's kind of like,
Damn,
I'm not scared of anything.
gave
And
me
so
chills, man. That I did
watched
not
it.
even consider that. I'm picturing it now. That's boldly marches into literally the abyss.
Literally, no questions asked. To the moment turns around, and that scene's so epic. And the only thing, the cherry on the top, is that the books are there, like in the coffin, like to me. So
bury me with my books.
So while it should have been my number one, I selfishly chose something else. But to me, like that scene was so powerful, man. Like you're not scared. Listen, I'm not scared. I'm gonna march to it.
Damn, I wish I almost want to change my number one now.
Well, just do a voiceover, like use my voice in front of your mouth. Just
my number one is the Liquorsmith scene because everything about that scene is so great. It's short, it's sweet, it's ridiculous. The wager is so absurd. Why would the Liquorsmith accept that? And you're a gambling man, so you can speak on this, please. You are the Liquorsmith. K. Roth Banu walks in. The bet is you have to pick what liquor he has on his mind, or you lose your glasses that you need to see. He's literally putting his tie on the line. You as the Liquorsmith are going, one, how the hell, it's so many options for you to choose from. So that, I mean, I'm not a gambling man, but I think that with your odds big time. But then there's he accepts it. He accepts the bet, even though he can lose his glasses. Worst case scenario, and the liquor. Oh, wrong again, Liquorsmith. Like this happens on a daily basis, and the Liquorsmith has never learned. And then like it even like illustrates how kind of idiotic the Liquorsmith is when, oh, and here I am with this fine pair of glasses that serve no purpose for me or something like that. The Liquorsmith goes, yeah, you just won them in the bet. Like, we were there. You were there. Who are you telling that you won them in the bet? We don't need a memory refresher now. This happened 30 seconds ago. Everything about that scene is so stupid in the most wonderful way. It sets you up for the adventure you're about to go on with K. Roth Banu and the characters that he's going to encounter. And it only gets, well, I wouldn't say it's my number one scene, so I can't at the same time say it gets better from there, but stays consistently as funny as that.
I'll agree. I'll hit 3 points very quick and then give my number one. Number one, I'll agree that it does set you on the roller coaster to where you're going on. So you already know that reality has left the train station. Hogwarts is on the way. Mm-hmm. Number two, when you ask me being a gambler, I'm a strategic wagerist. But with that being said, I will say this. Sometimes when you do, if you call it gambling as you call it, sometimes when you're a degenerate gambler, look at me when I say this. You just need a fix. And you'll do anything for it. So that's the position that he was in. Shout out to Trojan. So
you're saying K. Roth Banu, like he does a lot of characters where he takes advantage of their weakness the liquorsmith's weakness is he has a gambling problem, and
He'll do anything.
K. Roth is exploiting that.
He'll do anything for a fix. He'll do anything. And so number 3 is me bringing myself back to my number one scene. My number one scene for this film that made me bust out laughing, and I'm pretty sure a tear or two came out. It was during the prostitution scene of the film, and when Mills Mills.
Hold on, let me feed Mills while you're explaining this scene.
Mills takes some fucking substance. He turns around to this fucking, he taps it out in his hand, and he looks back. He's like, "Do you want to see my baby bird?" And she was like, "Yeah."
It got so dark so quick.
Because the lead up to that scene is that
he Bill Cosby'd her.
Right. No. But the lead up to the scene is Banu saying, "No, he's chronicling my life." It's actually me paying him not to watch. So if anything, I don't have $50 on my person. I have it now. Like he went through every excuse. She was like, "Yeah, she want me to call my pimp."
Yeah.
Like, see, either one or two things happen. Either he was really that disturbed to where his fantasy was. Is that, like, in his mind, even when he was having sex with prostitutes, Mills was still there. Mm-hmm. That's how up he was. Or the other part of that was he was just that eccentric that Mills was there chronicling his life while he was his prostitute. So to me, I'm sorry, man. That was my number. When he said, "Do you want to see what made him say? You want to see my?" He could just turn around like, "Hey." He turned around. "You want to see my baby bird?" And she was like, "He got out just like the." Jesus Christ! Like who drugged somebody after sex? Yeah. That's what the was with
Only
me.
Mills, the asexual.
Jesus Christ, man! So that was my number one.
Those are solid.
Thank you, man.
I mean, you can't pick a bad scene.
You really can't. You really can't. Jesus Christ!
That is a.
That's 7 minutes of heaven, man.
Yes. Let us move on to scene stealers. All right, so scene stealers. Every week he picks his favorite artist, I pick my favorite from the movie. We battle it out or flip a coin to decide who is the winner for that week. They go up on the board. At the end of this first season, after we covered 13 films, we will take those 13 actors and we will have a battle royale to determine who is the number one actor of season 1 and gets the coveted TTFT season 1 Best Actor award. So far, just to recap, we have, and damn you for picking this person whose name I will commit to by the end of this season. But for now, I'll call it Okoye. We have Okoye from Black Panther. From episode 2, we have Robert Pattinson of Tenet. And who will we have for 3, The Living Wake?
Well, for me, I really had to try to really take this with a level head because clearly you saw this years ago, and in all transparency, I only saw this a few days ago. But of course, I definitely did a deep dive into it as we do to do our due diligence on these films.
Did you do your research?
I did homework.
Okay, damn you for switching it
up. No, because while I was doing my homework, I found out I had to do research. That's what was crazy about it. So as I'm researching my homework to get to my statistics, which are in my notes, which were in my mind the whole time, what I figured out was, to me, like I say, for me wanting to be becoming and honoring my craft my whole life of acting. To me, this is one of the subjects that I take super serious that we talk about. I take all of them serious, but to me, this one hones in more for me. As we always call it I don't like to call it best actor or actress, just the best artist because it's fluid and entertainment is a spectrum. But with that being said, for me on this one, I mean, what I looked for was, while it was so easy to go in one direction, I harpened back to what I thought about. I saw what you did with Kill and what a lot of directors have done with other films. To me, when the main character is just so strong that no matter where he's at, he's going to take away from everything. Mm-hmm. And not take away, add to. He's just there's no way to not make him the center of everything. Banu is so strong, and I wouldn't have wanted to see. Only other person I think could have played it was Conan O'Brien.
I could see that.
You know what I'm saying? Or the guy or his friend.
But it would have been like kind of gimmicky almost.
Yeah, it would have been too. But yeah, but my point is this: is that like O'Connell did such O'Connell O'Brien, but go figure O'Connell O'Brien whatever. But he did such a good. He did not even good. He did such. This is the highest respect I can praise O'Connell. He did such a uniquely remarkable job. Meaning it was his fingerprint.
Yeah.
Meaning no one else could have done what he did with that role, and that couldn't. Banu was made for him. But with that, not even but I hate saying but, it's such a conjunction and contradiction. To me, I have to go Jesse Eisenberg on this, and the reason why me personally I have to go this because you're already to let someone else shine, but still be so particularly awesome in your role. I have to give credit to man because now don't. Because he had to normalize everywhere Banu went. Mm-hmm. He had to be that support. He had to be that cheerleader, that brother, that friend, that bromance. He had to be all those things to everyone when he needed a story where, hey, I got this blanket. Hey, let me hear it. You can say it again. While he entertained the guy earlier so that Banu could steal the goat. Mm-hmm. He wrote that song for him at the end. He only interrupted him one time. He said, I have so much time left. You have to do this now. I only have so much time. He's like, I have to do it now. And you know who reminds me of? Because not necessarily in front of the camera, but just with the idiosyncrasies and things like that is
Edward Norton.
It's funny. It's like, hey, you're bringing the words out of my mouth. Yes, Primal Fear, Rounders, Edward, the incredible.
I lost time.
I lost time. Like, yeah, I bet you he did, and that's one of his best performances ever. But no, Eisenberg really delivers. Thank you for that. That's also where I think rest in peace Heath Ledger got that scene from in the Dark Knight. But seriously, so for me, this film is Jesse Eisenberg, not because he was such a because he wasn't even the A-list actor on set back then. He was just like everybody else trying to get where he wanted to be. Mm-hmm. But he gave so much, and he has, and furthermore, the deciding factor, the sprinkle on top was he had legs of steel. You drove a rickshaw for I know it was for months. Like that's Jesus true. Christ, man.
Very good point. Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Jesse Eisenberg was my first honorable mention, so I totally agree with everything that you said. Like that was spot on. How you can be so great, and yet not have it like be at the expense of how supporting you are in your role. And yeah, so he was he was like the perfect balance to K. Roth's eccentricity. The spontaneousness of K. Roth was like grounded by I don't want to say he did what you'd expect, but there was like a safety net with that Mills provided, and sometimes it also felt like he was taking on your perspective as a spectator to everything, and it kind of encouraged you to respond with acceptance the way he responded, or just kind of like a passive observer to everything. And yeah, I can't imagine anybody else bringing that role to life the way he did. Maybe Michael Cera could have pulled that off. But
I can see that.
The other honorable mention I have is Eddie Pepitone as Reginald. Does that you make me nervous?
Almost like a sling blade little thing going on there.
This rival. It was such like a traditional. Like the rivalry that they have was hilarious, and there was never really explained. It was just these guys hate each other. Accept it. You get an idea for why Reginald has this despise for Banu, but it's never really confirmed. But my number one, it has to go to Mike O'Connell, because he made this movie for me. His embodiment of K. Roth Banu is magic to watch. His delivery, every line he says, it demands your attention, and you're thankful that you paid it. The fact that Mike O'Connell wrote the lines that K. Roth proclaims gives it this feeling of having a personal signature, or like you said, the fingerprint that only he could unlock. And you get this sense that it's just a very, I want to say sentimental, but you feel like you're getting a peek into something more than just a character in a film. And there's a certain admiration for being brave enough to step into a role that like when we talk to him later, you find that there's a lot of him in that character. And I think that's why people that love the movie identify with it so much, is because of that character. So we're at a head here, because I totally agree with you, and I also think that K. Roth's character is as great as it is with Mike O'Connell because of Jesse Eisenberg, or not solely because of, but like we said, Jesse Eisenberg is a great supporting.
It's iron sharpening iron is what it is.
Yeah.
So question, do we go to the coin flip on this one, or are you vetoing me? What are we going here?
I think I need to use my one veto this season for this episode.
I shall allow it.
Thank you very much for making this easy. I shall allow it. And congratulations.
Sorry, Jesse, you're going to have to wait to season 2 unless you're in one of these movies we didn't do. But great, hey, seriously, honorable mention to Jesse. And there was no, for us, I don't think there was a wrong answer here. But again, like you said, I cannot, to your point and my point earlier, the dialogue in this film is, to me, top 10 dialogue of all time that's been written and performed. Like, so I'll give that. I'm there.
All right. Mother Connell, congratulations. You are on the board. And I am rooting for you to win the award for the whole entire season. I know I'm going to have to fight really hard for that, but hey, today you are a winner, sir. What is the next segment?
The next segment is Donna. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
All right, we are about to break down our favorite lines from The Living Wake, and I'm just gonna prepare you right now. I have at least like one for every scene that I'm gonna machine gun through when it's my turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to start?
Might as well.
Yes.
Me, then me, then me, then you, then me, then me, then me, then you.
Me. Corky Romano.
All right, so the opening scene with Reginald. Ah, that's the stuff, Reggie. Nothing like empty threats from a shallow man first thing in the morning. It really gets my blood going. That, and then the way Reggie responds, you make me nervous. Like that, and that's the extent of what we know about why Reggie hates K-Roth. And it goes no further than that. That was, like I say in the interview, from that moment in the movie, I knew that this was going to be a ride.
I get why Reggie doesn't like K-Roth now.
Why?
It just reminds me of something that I'll talk to you about later.
It didn't even dawn on me that they're not really like neighbors in the sense that we would think. They live in the same like shelter for men. And I didn't realize that till like the end of the movie when his mom brought up, you're living in that shelter. It's another added layer to the complicated character that is K-Roth.
Well, if I have to do a segue, since we're talking about his arch villain, it was when he told Reggie at the end of the wake, I've shit in all your pants.
Yeah.
No, literally, I've shit in all of them. And so for me, I was just like, well, damn. Like, to think about this, guys. Somebody's pissed you off, and people have thrown shit at people's houses. Even if you shit on people's cars and their offices, even on the office, they shit in Michael's office. Even if you shit on somebody's car, he said, I shit in all of your pants. So now either Reggie has 2 pair of pants, or Banu went over there several times throughout time, strategically shit in each pair of Reggie's Levi's.
Yeah.
So for me, yeah.
In that same scene, and all of my lines are K-Roth. What is life if it is not uneasy? Yes. Again, all of his lines could be proverbs. They need to be on a coffee table book. If somebody else doesn't do it, I am going to. Damn it.
I'll say this: you can tell it was 2007 when they did this, because one of the lines is, "Don't put too much makeup on me. You're gonna make me look like a queen. Leave me the rouge or something." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I was afraid for a second.
He's a flawed protagonist.
Yeah, go ahead.
The picnic. So he gives this long speech to Martha's husband about pleading with him to let them have some alone time together, and it's so hilarious. Before he even puts a question mark on his request, the husband just casually no. Like he doesn't even get.
Can I respond because you took one of my lines? That's one of my go. You might say it. Go ahead.
When K. Roth concedes, well, my whole life has been awkward. Why should it stop now?
it was before he said that. He said something in between, because I had the same one. He says, he like her husband's there, and he's telling her, "You're my one true initial love," and he was like, and all of a sudden he's like, "You think I can have some long time with her?" And clearly her husband's like, "No," and he said something back to him. Kate Ross like, "You're poorly made." That was like, yeah, you told me he was poorly made.
He's got some very interesting zingers. Like, you really have to think about, like, what the fuck does he mean? I need to figure out what he means before I know if I'm insulted. The library scene, and I brought this up before. That scene is full of awesome advice, really, if you listen to the dialogue. But when he says, "You don't make a damn decision in this life if the options are always given to you by someone else," that is so prophetic. So that's on my list.
It's almost like he meant that when he didn't even say it with the same gusto at all. It's almost like he meant that. To me, is one of the lines we got from Gaffigan. It's one of my Gaffigan lines when he told his son, "If you control all the posters, how can they send you threatening letters?"
That was so sweet.
Yeah, it's like
that was very telling. Like, if this, all right, now K. Roth Banu makes a little bit more sense to me. Listen to the
things his dad saying.
It was power for one day.
like it's almost was that. I felt like that was a little Seinfeld reference for Newman. It's like, when you control the mail, you control information.
The clock shop, I thought it was brilliant and hilarious. Again, how he says, "If I'm forced to live within the confines of time, the least you could do is give me the hour and the minute we are in, free of charge."
What does he tell him? "I can sell you some time." Like, let the fuck out of here. Like, dude, what do you do?
I can sell you the time.
Or this way, hopping back to your first scene, when you, like you say, it says the roller coaster. He's like, "Mind if I have a sip?" And he was like, "Go." And he takes like 85% of the drink. So that was
long
beautiful
enough
to me.
for Mills to slowly get out the conversation for the rest of the scene. He's sitting there chugging. The church scene, where the men outside the church say, "By the grace of God, we are all alive," to which K. Roth responds, "Really? Do you think it's God's fault?" Like, the implication of that line is hilarious, that our survival is a problem that warrants blame needed to be placed on something. Like, the fact that we are here, alive, surviving, K. Roth sees that as some kind of, like, curse that somebody should be cursed for. Like, it's God's fault that I'm alive, not thank God that I'm alive.
I can see that. Wow. Okay, I didn't even think about it that way. That was a good one. That was definitely a good one there. I think this will be the first time where this made a segment while we're doing best lines. This is actually not best line. This is actually one of the first times I had to put best sounds. It's in the end when he's doing the Remembering Don speech and he goes fucking Jurassic Park on me with that T-Rex sound. He's like, like some Velociraptor shit is happening in there. Like some weird shit going on. I guess I'm not getting in Jurassic Park Dominion. I was just trying my voiceover. I can do voices, just not sound.
This, I guess this credit would go to either Peter Klein or Mike O'Connell. This line is from one of the title cards, which I just thought it was so genius. It said, "Family, the only institution that made me insane."
I saw that card. No. I saw that card and I was like, I didn't think it was going to be one of your favorite lines, but I'm like, Dave is going to love that. And I mean, you had already saw it, but I knew you'd love that. One of the last ones I had was when he's like, "I got $50 taped to my testicles." First off, I want to know why the $50 was taped to his testicles, as if he had been in that situation to where he knew he had let people watch before with a prostitute. And then we get a subtle hint that they fulfill something without saying it. If you see at the end of the film, the pimp is the one that takes like she has a female pimp, and she's the one that takes the $50. All you hear is just zzz. I was like, there it is. Yeah, let's go.
That's a long punchline.
Hey, but it was worth it. It was worth it though. It was.
My last quote is also from the wake service, where he's in the middle of that song, "Dressed for Death," and he confronts his mother and she says something like, "Stop being ridiculous," or "This is ridiculous," and he says, "You think that's ridiculous, mother? Wait till you see the finale." Like, that was.
He does say, and then he marches.
It's again that fearlessness of, this is who I am. I'm doubling down. Damn it all. Here it goes.
And by the way, your other son's an alcoholic. He saw that in his character.
You have any other quotes?
Let me see if I didn't miss one. I'm going to make sure. What? Yes, the last one I have here is the one that we talked about before. Again, this is what really entrenched this film for me when he was saying, when he told him when they were in the funeral home and he told him he wanted a Viking ceremony, because to me that was just like, to me it's almost. It's just like, that's so badass. It's something that an eccentric artist would want. You can't bury me. He's like, other than your cremation, he went in there like it was fucking Dairy Queen of 32 flavors. He wanted to know how many ways could you fucking put me in the ground or burn me and send me up to heaven or wherever he was going. It was crazy, man.
Yeah.
And to me, that also, to speak on it real quick, if you notice, like, to me, I don't think it was not done on purpose. Like, the most serious part of the film is the last shot, to where they do that slow crawl back with Jesse Eisenberg sending him out for the Viking funeral. It's like, okay, this isn't funny. Like maybe he did die and somebody found his funeral found his journal, and this is what became of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they attribute to Banu.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like.
It's so nice and open, because even if you know if you're really paying attention to his character, you could really believe it's either way. Either Jesse Eisenberg or Mills has really taken his body and burned it, or, I feel like there was intentionally that moment missing between, Mills burning his body. Like, you don't see all of that in a linear way.
Right.
There could easily be a part missing where Mills was in on it, or like that he's not really being burned at the end.
Right.
Or if it's just a representation for something else. It's a nice somber closing that leaves it just open-ended enough, or if you want closure, you can accept it at face value. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into the metaphor of it, it gives you the opportunity to do that as well. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to cast, crew, or you.
All right, let me stop him right there, guys. I got to do this because he's going to mess it up. He's super excited. Guys, you know who we have today? Let me tell you who we have today. Mike O'Connell. Do you know who Mike O'Connell is? He's the guy that made this guy make films that you love, that I'm in, that I do my thing in. So that's why we got to thank Mike O'Connell for showing up today. So guess what? He's here.
Go ahead. Shut up.
Yeah.
I have been... This is one of the main reasons why I wanted to do a show like this, was specifically for the guest of this episode. Mike O'Connell is a hero of mine. Like I made it abundantly clear by now. He made my favorite film in the history of film. So to be able to do this today, you know what? Let's just get into it.
I want to be your hero, baby.
All right, so our guest today, actor, writer, musician, and general funny human being, the one and only Mike O'Connell. Nope, not the wheelchair comedian. Not the hockey player. That one and only Mike O'Connell. So I just want to preface this real quick by saying that usually I like to try to remain an objective observer when we're doing this show and we're covering films. I'm just going to let you guys know right off the top here that I'm going to fail miserably at that today. I have so much respect for the work that Mike O'Connell has done. The Living Wake is, of course, my favorite film of all time, and I couldn't think of a higher moment for this show unless Bill Murray answers my message on his answering machine. But so I'm very excited today. I'll try my best to keep myself contained and composed so we can get through this interview successfully. O'Connell has worked on such films and projects as The Black Dahlia, Funny People, Patriot, which you can catch on Amazon. He's written for the show Dr. Ken, has done a whole bunch of work with Funny or Die. Your kids might even know him from a little show called Word Girl, and of course he wrote and played the lead in K. Roth Banu in the whimsically witty dark comedy that we are discussing in this episode, The Living Wake. And how are you doing today, Mr. O'Connell?
All is well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So, when I watched The Living Wake, I don't know if this is a testament to your acting or if it's because this film was written by the same gentleman that you know, and you play the lead as well. But I got a sense that there was an autobiographical aspect to this film. Maybe not the actual events, but the general idea for who K. Roth Banu is. So, how much of K. Roth Banu is Mike O'Connell?
I think a lot of the fanciful nature is in me. of the man. But I think a lot of that, it was autobiographical to a point. I think there is just like certain characters from my life, but not specific, different energies, like different things you run up against and different hurdles you have in life. Kind of like those were the representations of many of the characters standing in his way.
I kind of gather that too, that the characters that K. Roth comes across were kind of manifestations of things or people that you may have been dealing with, or generalized versions.
Like the mom and the brother. I do have a mom and a brother, but they're very supportive. I think that was kind of about like there's people are so nervous for you to go do something kind of crazy, and even if you have the most supportive family, there's like when I said I'm going to go do stand-up comedy like after college, they're like, it was supportive concern. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, well, you're running into a fire that is hot, sir. And I don't think you know the challenge of what so you're kind of saying, there has to be both of those sides where somebody's like, you have to be, there is an easier way. It's kind of what the mom is saying, and you are not taking it, and it really is breaking my heart.
Quick question: did you? Excuse me. I'm coming down with a little. What do we call that?
I don't know, but you're not 6 feet away from me, so keep it.
Oh no! I'm coming down with a little K. Roth Banu. There you see what I did there? Boom! There you go. I need a little.
I gotcha.
See there. So again, Mike, thanks for joining us. I want kind of to segue from his question here. I want to know, when you wrote this, and clearly you're a writer at heart, and from what we've seen, we've done our research here, and from what we've looked at here, did you write this character specifically for you to play it, or did you want some of your experiences to be there and maybe someone else do it, or did you feel that no one else could pull this off?
It started off as something I was going to do like as a one-man show type of situation, so it was always something I was writing for myself. And then and as we got closer to making it, nobody kicked me out. So I think I remember somebody it's like, once you get closer to making a movie, people are like, this person will get your movie made. Do you know what I mean? Put this person in and this will help you greatly. So I'm sure if somebody at some point was like, you know what, maybe losing Mike would be smart. I don't know. Get Viggo Mortensen to play the part or something great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was not an option, but it was initially I was going to do it as kind of a stage play about a guy who had this, basically the K. Roth character was in his mind and he thought he was this great artist, but he was just like a postal worker, and he had a very kind of sad life, but lived a wonderful dream life in his mind.
I would say it definitely. I think we got to play off of the stage play even at the end when you're doing the one man show. Then when you're the one like that.
Yeah. So that was the that it was supposed to be the whole short version of the stage thing would be, it's this guy kind of dying in a fever dream and kind of trying to claim he had achieved great things, but maybe he hadn't, or you don't know.
He was never scared. He was never scared.
Yeah, he was never scared. He tried his best, I think.
I'm wondering what was your inspiration for that story? I know you said it was initially going to be the stage production, but just the idea of K. Roth, that manifestation of an artist trying to immortalize himself with his work. Where did that come from?
I think that there was like a reflection on you just like moving to LA to do stand-up and stuff like that, and being like, not that I was frustrated where I was or being like I'm being ignored or anything, but it was it just made me reflect a lot on what do you do these things for, and what do you why am I doing these things? It's like reflecting on what the background purpose of it is, and sometimes it seems like there's a very shallow reason. Sometimes there's a very deep reason for what you choose to do. But I was just thinking of somebody who might not be the best at everything he tries to do, but he does it so hard that it's kind of beautiful. And he faces all kinds of people who want him to stop, and he just won't, because it's like not in his capacity to stop, you know.
Can you take us behind the curtain a little bit when you talk about the actual writing process? Now, when you sat down to initially do this, did you have the whole idea in your head? Did you kind of piece it together and just start? And and a follow up to that, how long did you work on the script for? And this is our Quentin Tarantino question of the day: were there any performance enhancing writing drugs involved in this process?
Oh yes. I think. Well, I wrote the one person show or whatever. And it was like a 25-page thing. And that, I don't know what year it was, but I gave it to my friend Peter Klein, who's the co-writer on it. And so we just kind of were starting. He had been writing a screenplay with somebody else and helping them. He'd helped a bunch of people write screenplays, and we grew up together, best friends forever and forever. And so he he basically helped flush it out into a film form. And I think it was, originally it was about, because we were just thinking about doing it as quickly and as cheaply as possible. And I think it was just a really eccentric guy in LA first, because it was just like, there are actually, if you live in LA, you see these people that are kind of like K-Roths in a way, where you're like, there's just like this insane kind of, it would have been beautiful here as well, I think, especially the palm trees and the rickshaw would have been a nice thing to see. And then once we actually got serious about it, we had to figure out where to put it and what made sense.
Was that in the script, or was that like something that you came upon in production and thought, yeah, let's run with that? Like, did you see the rickshaw or something? Because that's one of the things that like really solidifies the absurdity of the movie, is Jesse Eisenberg riding you around on a rickshaw from scene to scene.
I think it was just like I read, just the Don Quixote kind of relationship of it's like how do you make Sancho Panza and Don Quixote, like how do you make that a different thing, like instead of the horses? And it was like this weird, the ego of the character. The rickshaw is kind of perfect for to have some guy. He's like, I have one fan, and I make him drive me the around. So you're like, what? If you have one fan, you should be nicer to your fan.
And so I read that it screened in festivals where it received plenty of awards across the board, and it went through the circuit for about 3 years, from the time it was completed in 2007 to it being released to the public in 2010. Can you take us along that timeline of getting this film made from having the final draft, getting the crew together to it being available finally?
So it was 4 years, 2000 to 2004. We're writing the script. We have an idea to make the short film version, just to create the world of what this could be. And I think it was at that point we met Sol, who was from Kennebunkport, Maine, and we go and make this short, which I think is part of the DVD. If you buy the DVD from whoever sells it, I don't know.
Amazon. You can get it on Amazon.
We made like a 10-minute short that might be online as well. But it was like the first incarnation, and it was about me moving into this boarding house, and like the boarding house that he lives in the thing. So it's just this kind of thing about him meeting how he met Mills. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and then through that we kind of got funding and just got it closer to being made. And then Sol was like, yeah, we can do this in Maine, in Kennebunkport, for very low amount of money, because I know everybody, and everybody's kind of like still has this communal feeling where they just like love to help out. And it was just really, that was inspiring to see. We got so many locations for little to nothing, and people were just really supportive of a movie being made there. So we made it, took forever to edit, and I guess we premiered in 2007, I think, at Cinevegas. So yeah, it took a year to do the music and to finish the editing. I mean, it went from 2 hours. We cut so much stuff. It was just kind of just super hard, you know, but it's such a specific movie. The longer it gets, kind of, it would wear. I mean, there was a 2-hour version and it was like wearing people down. So it was, you know, what do you take out? How do you take it out? And then doing the score, which was so fun to do, but it was the challenge. And then we premiere, we got these, I don't remember their names, but so I can say they're dodgy. We got these like reps, you know, like at the Cinevegas Film Festival, and people are trying to sell it. People are like, no, we should get an endorsement from somebody who's famous because Mike and Ken have this video right now. Maybe we can get Will Ferrell to get. I mean, it really got into these things where we were holding it because we were waiting on a better situation to release it in. But that slowly faded as time passed. And so it didn't come out till 2010 because of that. It's like actually just a regular, it's like everybody's like, that sucks. And you're like, no, that's just a normal movie schedule. It's that stupid and weird that it's like you're not able to just cut 2 years out of the process because you don't like it.
So through the entire process, from the point that you have the idea in your head, filming it, seeing the final result, I know with independent filming, with production budget limitations, things like that, sometimes compromises can be made along the way. Sometimes they result in a better than what you imagined. Sometimes you wish that it could have went the other way. But could you, like, how close does the final product resemble what was in your head when you started writing?
I mean, I think we just overwrote the out of it, and it's like a very talky movie already. And then we had so many scenes we had to cut. There was like a whole introduction at the boarding house, which was like this beautiful, just a beautiful place, like this old time mansion that's the movie starts in. But I would go into these other rooms and talk to the people that would be at the wake later on, inviting them. And so we had to cut like that, where there were some really funny performances. This guy that played the landlord was just so funny. And he just hated K. Roth Banu because he's such a menace. And so he yells at him right before he goes to see him. And then at the end, he's at the living wake and there's a callback. Which I think was like criminal to cut out. I actually probably yelled at somebody because I was like, if you cut this joke, you're just killing the whole movie. Something that extreme. But at the end, because he's so rude to K. Roth, and then after K. Roth passes away, spoiler alert, he comes up to the casket and he goes, I'm sorry, K. Roth, you know what? I'm thinking of going back to school and becoming a dental assistant. And then he just walks away. And I thought it would just have been so funny because you see this guy so mad at the beginning, so cruel, and he's just decides to change his life and become a dental assistant. And I was like, how could you not put that in the fucking movie?
Yeah, it fits perfectly.
I showed the movie to my dad before we had finished, and that was in it. And then the next version, it was cut out. He's like, where's the fucking dental assistant line? I was like,
That's funny. So similar senses of humor.
so yeah, no, that you had to cut so much. But there's, I think if you make something so specific that there's not a lot of cutting around the energy of the thing. You're just cutting things out, but everything was in the same weird spirit. So in the end, I feel like we're all very happy with how it came out.
Very cool.
All right. Quick question. I wanted to segue. You were talking about the budget before. Did digging into the film, we were able to figure out the budget was about 500,000, and well, at least according to IMDb, and we can always trust them, right? And with that being said, definitely still impressive according to Hollywood standards. Let me ask you this: can you tell us you spoke to it earlier, the process of getting a film like this done on that budget, with still having people flying in, going back and forth, your heads getting cut off, running around like chickens? What was the process trying to get this thing done?
It was long, and it was not a well-paid job. We just, I mean, we took a lot, we sacrificed a lot on our end, like Sol, Peter, Amy, Chad, and, you know, it became our lives for quite a bit of time. And also I mean, everybody kind of just used all of the people they knew, and, you know, people who have friends of friends who just read the script, and we had the package, and we had like the short film and all of this stuff, all of my stand-up, and like all, you know, who I've worked with and all this stuff trying to sell it. And people, you know, just got it together, and it just went so quickly because it's so unpredictable. And I think we just got this weird momentum, and then everyone's like, this is not going to not happen. This is not going to not happen. So if you, I think if like 5 or 10 people think something's not going to not happen, that powers through a lot of missing money. And, you know, like if you're low on money, somebody goes and figures it out. You become so weirdly creative, and when you just really need to make this happen. And at a certain point, it's too difficult to stop the train. So you have to figure out these kind of harebrained schemes to figure, you know, to get done.
So this was your first time, at least again according to IMDb, producing and writing a feature, and it was also Tryon's directorial debut. Was there? How did that collaboration come to be, and was there ever a point where you considered directing it as well? Pause that. Just wanted to pause the interview real quickly because I actually reached out to director Tryon to be a part of this episode. It's totally on me that he's not here. I gave him like 24 hours notice because I was so stoked to get Mike O'Connell for the episode. I didn't think until like the day before that it would be cool to maybe have the director on as well. So there was, you know, because of that short notice, there was a little bit of a conflict. He's in pre-production right now, but I gave Sol the same question that I gave Mike as far as what it was like collaborating, and Sol did send in this response to that question. I'll go ahead and just read it here. So he says, working with Mike was a fantastic adventure. He's such a creative force of nature that it always provides an ample source of energy for anyone he collaborates with. My goal with him was to harness that energy and talent in a way that could create true and honest emotional connections with the other actors and the audience. I wanted to create a setting that housed this outrageous character of K. Roth Banu and provided a beauty that mirrored his inner perspective on the world. I'd like to think that we had a very fluid collaboration with a lot of freedom to explore what we collectively felt was the best solution for any given situation. Mike, Peter Klein, and myself just fully dove into the process and embraced everything that came our way. We always knew we were making something that was incredibly unique, and our collective talents and abilities were going to be completely necessary in order to make it successful. I can honestly say that it was the most enjoyable and personally rewarding creative experience I have had. So there you go. Thank you very much, Sol, for getting back to me on that. Sorry we couldn't have you on this episode and that the schedule didn't work out. I hope we can have you on for something in the future. Let's get back to the interview. How did that collaboration come to be, and was there ever a point where you considered directing it as well, or is that something that you ever wanted?
I think that I was already doing so much, and I just was not, that was never really an ambition of mine, is to do, like to control the entire thing. We would just wanted somebody proficient and professional, and Sol had just worked, he had produced so many things before this, and he just knew the independent film world better than we ever did. Peter and I think Peter was writing something with another director, and I mean, I was just kind of a drunk stand-up, so I would be like, it would be a hard sell for us to figure that shit out. And so it was this nice combination of various skills.
What was that collaboration like? Is I know on like a lot of sets it's different from set to set where how clear cut those lines and roles are. And I know that I watched an interview with you on I think it was Access Entertainment or something like that where you said that you met Soul in the making the movie, but there was so much leading up to making the movie. You guys were pretty much solid friends, but by the time you were shooting, so you're on set, and of course you wrote these lines, and you're playing the lead, but he's tasked with getting the blocking, finding the shot, and I saw that he said that there was some a little bit of improvisation within the production, more so in just the blocking and how things would play out, not so much the lines, but. How did that collaboration go between you guys as far as putting the film together, like from day to day?
It was great. I mean, and Peter, he was very important in just like the look and the feel, and just us having written it and being like so intimate with what we'd written for so long. I mean, we knew it backwards and forwards. So I think when you have to make those changes, it was so good that Soul was understanding that we were it's not like we were equal players in that he had so much to do and he was so proficient at the technical stuff that we have no clue about. And so I think we all had our very kind of specific weird jobs that were fit together like a puzzle,
And even following up on what David said about it, as far as there being some improvisation with of course, the blocking and things of that nature. When it came to the script, I know me and him always joke about, you have whose line is it anyway, and but on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they always there's no improvisation. You think there is. So with the, I'm going to tell you, I was super impressed with the dialogue in this film. I'm talking about, it made me feel like I was watching Clue, Barney Stinson, everybody wrapped into one. So first off, hats off to you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Was there any improvisation when it came to now he has me doing it, when it came to the actual script? Did you guys stick straight to it?
There was very little. I think that we were so open to the way they were saying the lines, but I think that when something's so it's so off the norm of dialogue, it's more like play dialogue. And I think that a lot of the actors just were like, this is the world, like this is obviously not 2005. So I think that helped because people just knew that it was a fantasy world, and it wasn't like, I'm going to come in here and make them laugh. I've seen people, I've been on sets where, people are just improvising so much, and then you look at the director or the producer, you're like, yeah. But it can be, and especially I think that once if you're improvising in a completely fabricated world, it's like, how could you do that when you don't understand the
Right.
philosophies of this place? Yeah. So I think most people were very, very, they just said the lines brilliantly. We were like, and it was just like, it was really lovely to see. There was a funny improv. It wasn't improv in the scene, but when we were filming the mother brother scene at this really fancy, beautiful house, I was outside waiting for the scene to go, just looking at my lines and stuff. And the guy who played my brother, he comes out, and he was this really kind of intense dude, and New York actor, just very kind of an intense dude, but lovely and very funny and ridiculous. And so he comes out and he goes, "Hey, Mike, I've decided the brother drinks." And he pulls out a flask and he just takes a sip. And I was like, oh my God, the guy's, he knows I'm like the producer of the movie. It's so interesting that the guy, he was such an actorson actor that he's like, I've done some backstory on my character, and he's an alcoholic who drinks all day.
That's awesome. And then
I
how
mean,
do you?
that's kind of a rude story to tell, but it made me laugh.
Well,
Because I was like, I'm not gonna fire the guy, but it was bold as because he can't.
I
Yeah.
decided I
Like,
drink.
And how do you really
I
respond to
wasn't.
that? Because you don't want to squelch somebody's such,
Oh,
commitment to
there's
character.
no way the guy's not doing the scene. I mean, you know what I mean. If we
Yeah.
changed something, it would cost money, and it was just not. Like the guy could have had a needle in his arm, and we would have done the scene. It just made me laugh what people kind of say, what people do, and blame it on acting.
Yeah,
Made me
yeah.
laugh.
Those guys
So,
just didn't really
anyway.
get me, man. They didn't get where I was. I'm a method actor, damn it.
That's exactly what he was.
That
And I was
also
like, all
comes
right,
out.
well. And then he nailed the scene. I go, I guess the brother is a drunk. I guess he does drink.
That's awesome. The relationship between K. Roth and Mills is easily one of the most interesting aspects of the movie. The dynamic between the two of them, kind of pick up on like a codependency, that is so interesting to watch, and like Mills he serves what normally would be like the straight man for the crazy eccentric character, but even at times you're like, is he a reliable straight man? Because he seems like he is right, he's almost encouraging it subtly,
Smithers.
but through support,
He is.
and kind of enjoying it in his own weird way. But so did you have Jesse in mind for that role when you wrote that?
No, we didn't. I mean, we had known Jesse from Roger Dodger, not, but even just from seeing it, and we had never even thought of it. And we didn't know who Mills would be. I think the funniest person we asked was Pee Wee Herman, Paul, which would have been ridiculous.
The Rubes? You got the Rubes coming out?
That's when I was like, just have him play K-Roth. Jesus, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I think there were a couple other, maybe we're, trying to get in touch with like Paul Dano and like people like that. And the casting director, I think she cast Jesse and Roger Dodger. So she knew him and sent him the script and he read it and he was like, I want in.
The chemistry between you guys felt so natural. Was that something that was like cultivated, or was it instant?
We met in New York like maybe a month before, 2 months before. I mean, I think we got pushed a month, so we had to live in the backyard in like a tent for 4 weeks. It was so weird. Anyway, we met somewhere in New York and had some drinks and stuff, and we just laughed. And he's such a smart, funny guy who has such a unique sense of humor himself. And I think he responded to the writing. And once we met, it was like, this would be perfect because he has this, he's super understated. And I think he's just like so knowledgeable of kind of, I don't know, it's like he was a vaudeville guy or something in the movie, and it's like the way even his physicality is. I'm just always impressed with his acting, but then once you start acting with him, you're like, I gotta be a better actor.
Let me ask you this: knowing where this started from the beginning and then seeing it play out on screen, what was your favorite scene, either to film or just to watch as a fan of the film?
I like. I really liked personally. I liked seeing I've Never, the musical number, because I was like, we did a musical number. And I love it. I mean, there's a couple, obviously there's a couple things, but that one to me especially was like to make kind of the one time he's reflective be a song, I thought was a coup. And we got this graveyard for free, like right by that. You're like, what the is this? It's like coming together. We had a steady cam guy who like broke his back and following me around because I kept up the mouthing. And that was great. And then, it's like, and she's in Handmaid's Tale. She plays the librarian, like for some reason.
The
And
librarian.
for some reason, that scene, she was so good that she actually made me feel bad when I was supposed to be trying to make her feel bad. And I'm like, oh my God, when you work with, she just communicated exactly what, you know what I mean? It's like she dug into our minds and got the meaning of the thing. Oh, and then I think that watching it, I love Jack's pants, the Jesse reading Jack's pants, because I think that made me laugh so hard. And the way Jesse, and talk about a good performance, is where he really could be. I mean, he just is like so innocent, such a child. I just love it.
Yeah, and that's just another moment that speaks to his loyalty to K. Roth, that he sees the despair that K. Roth is in that moment. It's like, I will step in.
I will amuse you by letting you perform.
I got my blanket.
The blanket came in like 2 seconds. He pulled it out of nowhere. Like, I got a blanket. I'm like, why are you carrying around a blanket for stores?
And then the way that the person, the board for the library just so happens to show up in time to deny it.
I mean, we were like, oh, okay, this is getting so British. Like, this is getting so Monty Python. But that's another thing that, like, Jesse just totally understood, was like, that's another scene that I love him in, is the picnic with the old man when he's playing the waiter. I just think that in his monologue, like, all the shit, and I do stand up, and I've been in movies that are, doing a modern comedy, as you said, like, a lot of those performances could go off the rails and just be really kind of trying to be funny. But there's this element of Jesse's like, I'm not trying to be funny. It's like, this is a serious endeavor we're involved in. And when he does his monologue, I'm like, I just cried. I was like, dude, that is the best that could be done by anybody. So
let me ask you this: with all the stuff you've done between the writing, and of course you've made impressive contributions when it comes to acting, writing, and producing, all the projects that you've done. Let me ask you this: out of the things that you worked on that brought people, of course, to The Living Wake, of course you can find it again on Amazon if you guys need to find it or whatnot. With all the great comedians, writers, and artists that you've worked with, can you think of your favorite, and I know we're putting you on the spot, but can you think of your favorite memory from any project that you worked on that just stands out above the rest?
I did What's It Gonna Be, which is that song that was on YouTube, and that got popular, and I started writing a movie about that, and we were going to make this movie. Didn't work out, but whatever. But because of that, I got to do this Judd Apatow, a bunch of shows with Judd Apatow and all the people that were going to be doing Funny People. So one night at the UCB in Hollywood, California, I was going up with Ken, and Adam Sandler was there. And Adam Sandler, growing up, to me, was like, just, there was no better than him to me, because I do music, comedy, and stuff like that. So he just was my hero. And just doing this absurd, overly sexual video led me to meet this guy, and I got to tell him how much he meant to me, and it was a very beautiful moment for me. So I think that that's something like that, where you're like, how did that lead to that? And and again, meeting Steve Conrad from Patriot, the director, writer of Patriot, he saw The Living Wake, and he was a judge in the Chicago Film Festival, and The Living Wake got in, and he said he was watching all these movies and kind of tuning out, and then he heard The Living Wake, and he heard me rambling about something, and he's like, what the f*** is that? And he went and watched it, and he kept watching it, and he's like, well, obviously this is going to win, because there's never been anything this good. And he loved it so much. And so through that, and then the best part of the story is he goes into the meeting the next day and everybody's supposed to be breaking down which one's going to win. And Steve's like, well, obviously everyone's going to say The Living Wake. And nobody said The Living Wake except for him. And we did not win. But what do you win? You won if you got to make it. And so after that, I got to meet Steve, and we became great friends. And then I started working on his projects, and still work on them. So I was just like, it's a friend, a good friend that enjoys that movie, because I think they understand the kind of my eccentricity and and as you said, the fans are a very unique group of people that are like, they have like beautiful ways of thinking. And I think that is it's always a plus if you understand Living Wake to me.
Yeah, there are certain films out there where they have the power to tell you something about somebody just by the fact that they like it or not. And Living Wake is definitely one of them. And I noticed you mentioned that you do music as well. That I wanted to do a quick sidebar before we finish this thing up. Can you tell us about the Sad Songs to Get Sad To album and what the inspiration for that was?
I don't know. Growing up, I was so addicted to like love songs and sad songs, and I just would walk around with my yellow Sony Walkman and just walk around the block crying for no reason to like Rolling Stone songs and shit. So I always loved a sad song, and I just started compiling them after heartbreaks and whatnot, and I just wanted to make a whole album, and it was such a great experience.
I know you wrote and composed the songs and performed the songs for Living Wake, and I mean, Dressed for Death is such an awesome. I can't think of a better climax to a movie than like it's up there with like Dirty Dancing when she jumps off the stage and he catches her.
Yeah, no, that was we didn't have the song until about a month before we started shooting, and there was just supposed to be, which was like, man, I was glad I came up with that song, and that I think Peter came up with the title, and then I had come up with just the music, and it really added an element that we were just so happy to see. And it was so hard to edit because the band was actually there. Mm-hmm. And so they weren't playing to a click track, and they weren't playing to, it was just like literally an editor's nightmare. And then I had to sing to this track that was not, it was like, it was just, we did it exactly the wrong way, but it ended up great.
Yeah, it came together. Great.
I would have many, many, many different ways I would do it after that.
Let me ask you this. Of course, then this like we're wrapping this up. Of course, we're gonna let people know where they can find The Living Wake. It's still on Amazon. Of course, I've already purchased it, so it's in my digital collection now. So I definitely do have that. Other than that, where can people find you nowadays? What are you working on? And like I say, if they need to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I've just been doing more. I produced Ken Jung, who's like a good friend, and I've worked with over the years. I actually produced part of his game show on Fox. I Can See Your Voice. 9 o'clock Central on Fox on Wednesdays. And I've just been working with friends on different things, and nothing really to report. But yeah, check out Sad Songs to Get Sad To. It's on all of the music platforms.
Yo, Mike, I could talk to you all day about The Living Wake, and I won't do that, though, for the sake of my having to get this edited before Thursday, and I'm sure you have things that you've got to get to. But this has been...
it was fun to talk about. Thank you.
Well, however you felt when you met Adam Sandler, that's me. That's me now.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Going hard. If you cannot see it, his nipple is coming out through the shirt. So
I'm super happy. Super happy to talk about it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
And once again, thank you so much to the lead actor, writer, and overall brainchild behind The Living Wake. So thank you, Mr. O'Connell, for that, or should I say, as I think you are, Mr. Banu.
I don't know how my life could get better from this moment.
We can get 1,000
it's a very somber moment for me. I don't know how I can move on from this. I don't know how. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for ruining the rest of my life.
Okay, and with that being said, talk about room for improvement while we're going to be getting David some help. With that being said, guys, room for improvement. This is just the area where we're very brutally honest about the film, and we say one thing that we could change about it if we could change it. And for me, I thought long and hard about this as in much time as I've had. If I could change one thing about this, I would change the marketing that this film got. That's what I would do.
Okay. Cool.
Whoa, what the was he
Hands
was
down.
gonna jump on me or some like that? Like we talked about this in post. I mean, pre-production. No, I would just really change the marketing because again, I didn't see it, the marketing campaign or anything like that. And to see that this had a $500,000 budget, I just really feel like when you're doing a certain film, you have to realize who you're doing a film for. And so I think it was unfairly reviewed on the Rotten Tomatoes of the world because again, you have your critics who are reviewing every genre of film, and then you also have your fans who are seeing a film for a specific reason. And like you say, you only really found the Living Wake or Michael Connell through looking up Jim Gaffigan. And when you found his stuff and that led to this, it's like you went down that rabbit hole. So for me, I would just change the fact that not a lot of people know about this, and I think a lot of people would find this genre very appealing. So that's the one thing I would change about how the marketing was done, and I just wish that more people were able to see it.
Thank you. It's touching. I also wouldn't change a thing about the production or movie itself. And yeah, I wish more people had the opportunity to find out about it, which is a big reason why we're doing this episode. Check it out on Amazon Prime.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Subscribe.
And subscribe.
What I would like to take the time for this segment to say is that I hope to experience that lightning in a bottle like this one more time before I pass. I hope this isn't the last feature that O'Connell pens a character for, that he himself brings to life. I hope there's a mega producer out there that sees The Living Wake and they're like, I don't care about the public, the overall universal ability to have a positive public reaction to this. This is a great film. I want to do something like this with these people again. Because I don't want to see a sequel or anything like that, but I would love to see what this team working together would do if given the opportunity to do so.
I concur.
All right, so Fxxks Given. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many do we give The Living Wake? I'm gonna go last because I'm really interested to hear how many you with this film.
I am going to make it short and sweet and say I gave this film 3.5. And the reason why I gave the film 3.5, of course, like it's that I'm not going to say that it was my cup of tea, but what I will say is I enjoyed the journey of walking down. It's almost like somebody asking you, "Hey, you ever tried sushi?" Like, I heard that nasty, and then you get into it like, no, it's just different. And I want to see more. I want to know more. And like I say, and again, you know me, I always do an average. Script wise, dialogue wise, A+. I could not have asked for anything dialogue-wise different. When it comes to courage, I gave them a 4 for, of course, like I say, being able to doing the hard job of combining a stage play, putting a marching band, and then we talked to them later about how that was an editor's nightmare to do that. So, like, I give them credit for that. Overall acting, I will say this: I gave of course, outside of Eisenberg and O'Connell, I felt like they put the bar so high they didn't even allow anybody else to be able to reach a B level to me. And I'm not saying that these other actors aren't great, but again, you can only do what the script allows. So to me, that's why I was like, okay, I get it. They're so powerful. So to me,
I'm sorry.
Are you
the funeral director, the liquor smith?
Oh no, these are great
librarian.
Characters. They are. But again, at the end of the day, because we spend so much time with O'Connell.
The meatloaf in the pocket, the roast beef in the pocket.
Oh no, you talking about the ballerina, retired ballerina guy, and I'm not taking anything from that away. I'm saying that I think you're missing my point. I'm saying that O'Connell, he was your favorite actor. O'Connell and Eisenberg were so great.
Okay.
That like the gap was there, but it wasn't a bad gap. Like I didn't want everybody else trying to compete with them. The other sub characters were there and they held their own. There was not enough screen time for them to even get where these other guys were at. So it was not there for them to get. But to me, I still have to say, I can see learning that, and it makes sense. Learning that he didn't get his due just because, as we learned, it was a 2-hour film that was cut down to about 90 minutes. I can't fully flesh this out for what it would have been. So from what I was given, what I saw and how I enjoyed it. And I thought, honestly, within the first 5 minutes, I thought it was going to be, I wasn't going to give it a I thought it was going to be a fist. Mm-hmm. But then 90 minutes later, I'm at 3.5. I think that's great. And that's where I landed at. And also, you notice what I gave Tenet as well, 3.5. So,
yeah, that's pretty, that's
so I'm consistent with that.
Sure.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get my,
a fistful of for this one. And are you surprised I give it a fistful?
That's not how you fist. You got to.
Don't tell me how to fist. I'll fist however I want to fist. From the first time I saw this to when I watched it this weekend to prepare for this episode, it registered with me then. It still registers with me now the same way. It connects on so many levels, and it's hard to find a movie that, one, can do that, and two, can do that over the span of over 10 years where you can go back and watch something and it's so timeless that you still feel like it's speaking to you. But as you grow as a person, you take different things from it. So it is it's not a universal film for everybody, but if it is for you, it's for you universally, timelessly. It was perfectly absurd. Like I said before, it's a nice approach to dealing with heavy-handed subjects that we don't like to think about, but it allows you to explore ideas like death and things like that and death of self and your own self-awareness and being okay with who you are in the world. All of these things don't sound funny at all, but this movie makes them not just hilarious to think about, but you also get it's just really, it's sneakily intelligent. The intelligence of it really is just, it comes out of nowhere. You don't expect it. So yeah, I highly recommend The Living Wake, and you could check it out on Amazon. Give it 90 minutes of your time and decide if you are one of the ones out there that are going to enjoy this movie. And I promise you, if you are, you're really, 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 really going to enjoy it. So that is Fxxks Given. Let's move on to coming attractions. What do we have next week, Mr. Royal?
Next week, we dive into a game of mystery, deceit, lust, love, drugs, money, guns. Round and round we go. Round and round we go. Let me hear you say. No, it won't be a little Uncle Luke, but no, we're doing the movie Rounders, starring Matt Damon and Edward Norton. And when I tell you guys we're going to do a very, very deep dive on that, just be prepared. We're going all in on Rounders.
Again, this goes back to the gambling problem I mentioned
Strategic
earlier. This was
wager.
his pick.
Strategic wagering.
I haven't seen this movie since I worked at Hollywood Video as a teenager, and it was one of those films that took up like the whole shelf. I watched it then. I think it was like 17, 18 or something like that. Have not seen it since. Love Matt Damon. Extra love Edward Norton. So I am definitely excited to dive back into this one and check it out.
I think I've seen it at least, literally, fact check me. I've seen this at least 24 times.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got some catching up to do.
A little bit.
This will be my third time watching it.
A little bit.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of That's the F***ing Trailer. Subscribe, share.
Where can they find us at?
Guys, thank you very much. Have a great week. We will see you next Thursday. Check out the highlights this Tuesday. Tell your friends about us. Tell your prostitutes about us. Tell your nanny that you love about us. Tell the whole world about us. Do not let us go marching into the abyss without the world knowing who we are and what we do. Thank you very much. Thank you again to Mr. Mike O'Connell for making my dreams come true this episode. It's all downhill from here. Have a great week, everybody.
Hey, Ma, send us out.
That's the trailer.